So how do we know we're not wasting our time? That's great. I started this video 3 different times, and I thought, okay, I finally got it figured out. And then how do you twist my words at the first sentence? So that's perfect. I don't mind misspeaking. It's just that the first time this didn't turn on, the second time the camera shut off, it's always some issue. But anyhow, I came out here to my office to sit down and make an audio recording talking about time. Talking about spending time, the idea that time is the ultimate currency. When you use the idea of time as cash flow, as in flow, or currency as in current, it's just the same as when we say we're spending time. It's the only other thing we say we spend because it's valuable. It's the ultimate commodity. And so I wrote this paper this morning about it, and it really got me thinking about purpose. And I was listening to a couple of philosophy lectures earlier about Marcus Aurelius. And, many of the Stoic philosophers, if you will, I mean, people throw around these terms loosely. I believe Stoicism is closest to, what I've found to be a great adaptation to our current atmosphere. Let's just put it that way. Being able to overcome the obstacles with a grain of salt, no big deal, let things go, don't worry about the bigger picture, yet still be able to address them is kind of my thing, my demeanor. And I guess I feel like I stand alone on that a lot of the time. I don't really get riled up about politics, I don't really get riled up about world issues, but there are certain things that of course frustrate me, but it's very short-lived and I move past. I see people around me who are angry at the world all the time. And people who have found their purpose to be actually rebelling against the status quo. As I mentioned earlier, I was talking about protests briefly in the last video, and I've always been one who respects protests. I think it's a very important part of culture. But when groups start wearing masks and breaking windows and blowing up cop cars, they make everybody look bad. So I was thinking about how the left takes things to such an extreme because they're angry about what the right thinks, and people strike back and forth. And this idea of purpose that comes along with that, and because I don't want to get too far off track here, the whole idea is people find a purpose within a community. And when you find a purpose, you will do anything to protect that community, to protect that purpose. Now, I'm not here to point fingers or make this a political video at all. I probably shouldn't have brought up, the idea of masks. You instantly realize I'm talking about Antifa. But it was because it was a subject matter in some studies I was doing earlier. And I spend a lot of my time studying. I really love to understand what's going on in the world and why. And so, back to purpose, this idea that people can't find purpose within their own culture causes them to lash out at one another and others. And xenophobia reigns supreme. So instead of a world where we begin to accept one another on a different level, we start to understand that we're all unique. We actually grow further apart because it's not just propaganda, and that's a huge part of it. Their wool is pulled over the people's eyes as long as we're fighting amongst each other, the elite can continue to take advantage, sure, of course. But there's another aspect of it. Just like the ad agency selling to us, we're the ones who buy it, ultimately. We are responsible for our own education, our own awareness of what's going on in the world. And people aren't doing a very good job as a whole, as a society, at standing up for what they believe in and protecting their interests. But when a group of people does stand up and protest, they're instantly put down and ridiculed as just troublemakers. Such as after the Wall Street crash, or rather, 2008, the housing crisis, when, millions of people lost their homes and the banks were bailed out. It was the bank's fault. None of the bankers went to jail. And then people protested in the street, and then they were ridiculed and mocked for a year on the media, as if, these people should just give it up. We in America, my point being that in the land of the free, it also means that there's free capitalism. So we lose this belonging, this sense of community that we once had with our government, with our people, with other states. There have always been times when we had more of a tribalism, which a lot of people have cast aside as being, the problem in the modern world. I don't think tribalism is necessarily the problem. It's tribalism with ignorance, because sticking with your tribe is fine. It doesn't mean that you have to fight other tribes. Some tribes fought, some tribes didn't. It depends on how much land is available. And as circumstances become more and more dire, as water dries up, as land and fertile farmland becomes less available, and as more and more people are created upon this earth by the mere fact of breeding, like any other animal, we can't at this point blame ourselves for the fact that we feel like we're wandering aimlessly, like we have no purpose. And so many people out there will latch on to anything they can find. And no, I'm not going to talk about religion. I will bring up the New Age ideas, which wasn't, this idea of what you would call spiritual blocking, I believe. It's basically hiding behind this idea that everything's just fine. Instantly comes to mind that meme of the dog sitting on his chair reading a newspaper, I believe, and the whole house is on fire, and below it just says, "This is fine." It's an older meme, and I'm sure you've all seen it. Maybe not, but the first time I saw that, I don't know, I didn't really think much of it. After I saw it a few times in years past, I thought, okay, that's what you make of it. What is your fire? I mean, many houses are on fire, and many people are wandering aimlessly in the desert, if you will. It's almost like you can take a lot of the metaphors from religious text and apply it to society. Wandering in the desert for 40 days or whatever it is, and then hopefully we find somebody who can save us, right? Part the seas. Well, that's, I think, one of the biggest problems we have right now is idol worship and what you would call the cult of personality within a lot of other people. If we can't find purpose within our own lives, if we can't find a way to adapt to our own circumstances, often we will latch on to other people. And there are plenty of folks who will take advantage of that. People with celebrity status can go a couple of different ways. You can either withdraw, or you can just immerse yourself in it. And we all know a lot of people who immerse themselves in it. They just love the attention. And I think that there's a healthy amount of need for that connection, for that, because, but it can become toxic really quickly if you demand that people respect you. Because nobody can demand respect. You cannot command respect from people. I've actually in the past heard people say things to me like that, like so-and-so should be respected, or so-and-so should be respected for this reason or this title. I think, I don't respect anybody, whether they're a politician, a priest, a pope, or a doctor. The title doesn't mean anything until you've proven yourself worthy at your job, right? So people are just people, and it's important that we don't latch onto other people's purpose to find our own. But there's a certain amount of us that wants to, in other words, we can't function completely on our own without looking at where other people are focusing their energy, because there's a certain amount of connection within our society, within our species, if you will. The human species, we have our own, I guess, natural tendencies, habits, instincts that we're unaware of because our minds have overtaken our ability to see that purpose. And I don't know where we're going to go from here, but I feel like I've wandered way off topic, but I'm sticking to purpose because purpose is the main point of this. So I guess to come full circle, how do you find purpose in this life? Seneca. I mentioned this in a different video because I was watching a video about the philosopher Seneca, and I believe he was a Roman, he was a leader in the Roman Empire about 2,000 years ago. he said, he had many philosophies on this, but he, like a lot of other philosophers, knew and declared as much, that it's all about perception. In other words, you are what you think, right? And that you create your own reality. But more than that, he used the mental alchemy, where you create your own reality, not because you're manifesting things popping into your life, but rather you're accepting the things that happen to you. You don't fight against it anymore. It doesn't mean that you have to get taken advantage of and tread on. No way. It's the opposite. It means you take the reins in your own life. You don't let life push you around like a pool ball. You do the things that you feel in your heart. But more than that, that you wake up and you find something that moves you and find your purpose. And the hardest thing for a lot of people is finding that thing that moves them. But on a very final note, the hard part for me is not finding my purpose or my passion or interest. I do it every day on YouTube, researching, writing. The hard part is getting paid for it. So, once again, of course, if you all want to support me, you're welcome to visit my Patreon page. And it's taken me a long time to say that. 3,500 or so videos in 9 years to start saying, hey, I really appreciate my patrons on Patreon. I appreciate people contributing to my efforts. A lot of people kind of throw that little disclaimer in at the end. I do it facing the camera because, I guess there's no shame in that. So to finalize this video, if you want to find your life purpose, you can watch highly edited, fancy videos that will give you all these inspiring background music and pictures of mountains, or a guy standing there shouting at you saying, you can do it, all you gotta do is just get up and do it, man. And all of us have probably watched those inspiring videos and said, yeah, I can do it. And then a couple days later you're like, fuck man, I can't do it. And that's okay. If you do happen to find something you can stick with, work your best to make it happen. My intention here next is to start another channel, and or else use one of my other channels, because I don't want to start a whole new thing on this channel, because I feel like it would kind of taint what I do here. I talk about everything. So these papers I'm going to read, like the one about time is money, I'm going to do it on just the audio recording and then put it on with background pictures and whatnot. But I still enjoy facing the camera. I feel more comfortable with it. And even though I can't see your faces, I appreciate all of your comments and getting to know you all. The very final thing, if any of you have YouTube channels, let me know. I know I have a lot of subscribers that comment, and sometimes I click on a person's channel by chance because they say they make a video, and I was like, oh my god, this guy makes videos, cool. Get to know my subs. Don't be shy. Let me know if you have a channel. I want to check it out too, and return the favor. I'm looking to maybe collaborate in the next year or so too. I'd love to use my my speaking skills and writing to combine with somebody else's maybe illustration or editing skills or something like that. I don't know, but there are a lot of YouTube channels out there that merely show pictures of kittens, and they have 10 million views. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month off of pictures of cats and things like that. And it's just kind of, is there any way that we can take information and make it viral? Probably not. I guess most people don't want to hear it. But anyhow, I appreciate all of you. Thanks for coming along. Perfect. I'll talk to you later. Peace.